My name is Eric Rydin, certified sommelier and owner of Le Grand Triage on the Upper East Side. Today we're getting a little extra fancy since it's Good Friday and Passover. So wearing my Sunday's best, and since we're all telecommuting from home and obviously just getting dressed from the waist up, I thought I would follow suit and do the same. Very casual Friday. Do I tuck this in? I don't know what the protocol is here, right? All right, anyway, so today we're going to be talking about Au Bon Climat, the proprietor and winemaker Jim Clendenin, true American hero. We're big fans, and he's really credited as one of the pioneers of old world winemaking in the new world. What does that mean? So before we get into the actual wine, I really want to explain what these terms old world and new world mean. So traditionally, old world are wines that are made in Europe, and really spearheaded by France for a very, very long time. Everyone emulated that style of winemaking. All of the techniques they used, everyone was trying to copycat what France was doing. Well, basically the entire world tried to make this similar style of wine, this old world style of wine, all the way up until the 1980s. And that's when we have the birth of this concept of new world wine. Up until the 1980s, that concept didn't exist. It was just old world. So enter 1980s, enter New World wine. And I think the best way to really capture what happened after the 1980s is through song. No, actually a puppet show. So in the 1980s, there's really two characters in this story. You have the American public that's like, oh no, wine is so expensive and intimidating and I don't understand any of it because it's all in French. And right? And like, that's the American public, obviously. And then our other character is Robert Parker. Robert Parker's like, I like big, juicy, jammy fruit bombs. Right? And the American public's like, oh, please, we need someone to really like make this like just so much simpler. Like, I just don't understand what wine to buy. And Robert Parker's like, just buy big, juicy fruit bombs. And everyone's like, oh, but I don't know which ones are like big, juicy fruit bombs. How do I know? Because everything's in French. And then so Robert Parker comes up with this system based off of points, like if you were grading, let's say, a math test at school, and he's like, 90 points or bust. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that really makes sense. Oh. So the reason that people like Jim Clendenin are so important is that from the 1980s onward, a bunch of American winemakers started tailoring all of their wines to satisfy Robert Parker's palate. The thought process basically being, if we can make wines that Robert Parker is ranking 90 plus points because they're big, fruity juice bombs, then we're going to sell more because the American public dogmatically just believes everything he says. And so to really go against the grain and to make something that is still old world style was really daring. And Jim Clendenin, one of the first to really be doing that in the wake of New World wines, which is really kind of pioneered that style. That philosophy is really pioneered by Robert Parker on this like points system. Other wine critics have gone on to follow very similar things. Jessens Robinson, Stephen Spurrier, more recently James Suckling, but Robert Parker really the first and the OG. So what does old world, what does that actually taste like, right? So when we say old world, I think in the most romantic sense, it's like picking up a glass of wine and really like smelling the location. Like you can actually kind of imagine a physical place. You're like transported, mentally teleported to that location, and you can really get a sense of where that wine is grown. I think a great example is in France, there's a region world renowned for its mushrooms and its truffles. So when you taste that wine, it actually smells and tastes like those local mushrooms and truffles. And so old world, I think, really tries to capture that at heart. And meanwhile, New World is really the antithesis of that. It's really just all about the fruit. It's all about sort of satisfying your mouth pleasures, right? That's really at the crux of New World. And Robert Parker's influence in France, I think, is most noted in a place like Bordeaux. And his influence was so negative, in fact, positive in regards of sales and whatnot, but I think negative in terms of our conception of what is old world and what is romantic winemaking, that a neighboring region called Burgundy, in fact, actually banned him from ever going into the region. So in Burgundy, acted out by Frank the Frog, Burgundy's like, Mr. Parker, Monsieur Parker, you are not allowed in the Burgundy region. And he's like, 90 points or bust. And everyone's like, au revoir. So all of this is to say that really, when push comes to shove, neither Old World nor New World is better nor worse than the other, but rather they are very different. I like to think of it very compared to certain cultural productions like movies, let's say. A classic American or New World movie is simply meant to entertain you, right? Transformers 18 is not a thought provoker. It's all about boobs and explosions, right? Don't try to hide behind it. That's just simply what it is. Meanwhile, a lot of foreign films, European films, are really brain busters, and they're meant for so much more thought provocation. And so I don't want you to think that neither one is better nor worse, but just simply different. Anyway, let us know what you think. Do you capture a little bit of the Old World when you taste this bottle? Leave us a comment or send us a message, and then join us next week as we taste our new selection and debut our first mystery whiskey. Stay safe and stay home, guys. Bye.